what's Oklahoma going to do at quarterback? That's the big question on everybody's mind. We're starting to get more and more names entering the portal. Where does Oklahoma go? Let's discuss coming up next here on Locked On Sooners.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks again for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers. Make sure you're tuned in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on all podcast platforms, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So, Jay, the quarterback question is going to be the biggest one on everybody's minds as Jackson Arnold entered the portal. You got Michael Hawkins expected to start the bowl game for the Sooners, which we'll talk about the bowl game coming up in our third segment today. So where do you think Oklahoma's heading at quarterback? What do you think are going to be some of the top names they're pursuing?
Yeah, of course, the number one name on the list that Oklahoma should pursue and hopefully win is John Mateer, quarterback at Washington State. As of right now, he is going through all of the bowl workouts, and because of that in practices, people are thinking, oh, he's probably not going to hit the portal. But you got to remember, when we went through a whole coaching change, Caleb Williams played in the bowl game before he actually entered the transfer portal. So that situation's probably going to be the long game. So I would not expect that to be resolved immediately. But there are a few names out there that you can keep your eyes out for, like Caden Salter, the quarterback over there at Liberty. But one that jumped in the portal yesterday that I think is probably one that I could really see us going after is Darian Mensah, the quarterback at Tulane, 6'3", 200 pounds. We watched him be a pain against us when we played. We watched him be a pain for Kansas State when they played him. And they finished the season, 8-4? They almost, or 9-4? They were 9-4. So they almost went to, won their conference championship. So he's one that I think is a definite possibility for Oklahoma. And he's actually one that kind of makes sense for us to pursue. He has all the skills that would work great in a Ben Arbuckle offense, and he's mobile enough. I mean, I think he could run a lot more than he does, but you put him in Arbuckle's system, he could probably cook. But the question is, between him and Michael Hawkins, how would that battle go? I think you may want someone a little bit more experienced, but I think Mensah's one to really keep your eyes out on.
Yeah, I think if you're going Mensah, you can have a legit quarterback competition between the two.
Yep.
Mensah's got a year's worth of starting experience, and he had some really good games. I mean, he went for 342 and 2 touchdowns against Kansas State. I mean, really strong performance. Went 326 and 3 touchdowns against South Florida. Against Oklahoma, not as efficient, just completed 43.8%, but threw for 166 and a touchdown. Again, against a really good Oklahoma defense. So that's not shocking. They were doing that to a lot of people last year. So a lot of promising potential out of Darian Mensah, but I think you're right. Oklahoma may want to lean more into somebody more experienced, and that to me lends towards a John Mateer. Now, Washington State doesn't play their bowl game until December 27, which is actually when Oklahoma plays their bowl game as well, December 27. So you're not going to hear anything for 18 days. It's going to be a ways out still. So if Oklahoma has some thought that they know where this is going to go based on Arbuckle's relationship with John Mateer, then you might not hear anything for a while. Yeah. And there will have to be some patience exhibited if that's going to be the direction Oklahoma goes. But there are some intriguing names in Darian Mensah, in Connor Weigman, Miller Moss. I mean, that's an experienced dude. He's shown some things, obviously didn't work out with Lincoln Riley and USC. So it may not be a name that you fully want to lean into, but it feels like all the chips are going to be in on John Mateer.
Yeah. I feel like we're going to lean heavily into that one. Another name to think about is Matthew Sluka, the quarterback that was at UNLV. He's a
Brent Venables say, Jay? What does he say? You recruit your problems.
I understand that, but if we're gonna have Donovan McCulley come in for a meeting today, then I think that you should go ahead and consider Matthew Sluka.
Okay.
at this point.
Okay.
If we're going to do one, you may as well do the other. And
Listen,
I don't think it's
we don't
some
know
bad
what the
idea
ins
to
and
kick
outs are of Donovan McCulley. We don't know what the situation is there.
Hey, I mean, we don't know the situation either at with Sluka.
Pretty well documented what happened with Matthew Sluka.
Well, they promised him one thing.
Misunderstanding with NIL, and I think probably the thing that happened with Indiana is he just fell out of favor and wasn't getting a lot of playing time.
I can see that.
That Indiana offense was cooking without him, and so he's like, okay, well, maybe this isn't the place for me.
I mean, you're not wrong at all.
I'm never wrong, Jay.
Fair point.
I'm playing.
Fair point. You are not never ever wrong. But there's a ton of different options even out there, right? You've got Devin Brown that just hit the portal from Ohio State. Mm-hmm. If you do want to go with another young quarterback, but again, I think you want to go. And the reason why I would even mention Matthew Sluka is that he's a redshirt senior, so you've got 1 year of eligibility with him. He's a guy that's going to come in, probably play a year, give Michael Hawkins the opportunity to truly learn, get the position down packed, bounce out, and then boom, it goes straight to Michael Hawkins from there. I'm down for someone in that realm of that's played, that's willing to throw the ball on a regular basis, learn a system quickly, and get going. Because I'm really ready to see what Michael Hawkins is made of. We got a little bit of a taste. He was thrown in a very uncomfortable situation, and he figured it out. Didn't get as good as we would have liked, but we're going to see what he looks like against Navy and how, if he's ready to go ahead and throw the ball on a defense that should allow him to throw the ball. We'll see that
with
from
a better
him.
Offensive line.
With a much better offensive line.
And not facing Kyle Kennard and Dylan Stewart.
Exactly. You're not dealing with a couple of edges that are going to light you up. We don't have to deal with that. Nope. He should be able to go out there and lead it. He was able to lead us a victory against Auburn. He should be able to do the same thing against Navy. The big thing, especially when it comes to the bowl game, the defense is going to do more work, but he should be able to go out there and throw the ball. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. And I'm very excited to see what he's going to do. I think he's got a lot of promise, a lot of potential. And again, as the offensive line has improved, that should provide him a lot more comfortability. And listen, he didn't look necessarily uncomfortable in that game against South Carolina. It was just, one throw got away from him as he's getting hit. One throw, just a little bit underthrown to JJ Hester on that, that deep over route. And then the fumble, he's getting hit as he's trying to make a play happen. So unfortunate. It's an unfortunate start to that game, an unfortunate series of events for Michael Hawkins. But if you know anything about Michael Hawkins, the dude's going to bounce back and he's going to be a good player despite.
Agreed.
Hey, back to Donovan McCulley real quick. So again, this dude led Indiana in receiving in 2023 after transitioning from quarterback as a freshman to wide receiver as a sophomore. Had a little bit of production, not a lot, not anything to really write home about, but then had a good year where he had 6 touchdowns, 600 receiving yards, 40-something catches. And then listen to his snap counts to start the season for the Hoosiers. 9 against FIU, 3 against UCLA, 7 against Charlotte, and just one snap against Maryland. So they weren't playing him. There was not going to be any playing time for him there. And he got an opportunity to redshirt. Because he only played 4 games.
And he was a holdover because this is a new regime there. Kurt Cignetti. So this is a new regime and new setup, and he was a holdover.
Yeah.
Yep. And I guess it was just didn't work out for either side. And they decided, go ahead and redshirt. And like I said, we don't know the story, what the full story is behind it, but at the same time.
I mean, listen, honestly, if you're going to explore quarterback, explore all options. Don't put your head in the sand and say, hey, this is our guy. We're going to just bank everything on him. Really do your diligence and find the guy that can be your 2025 quarterback as you continue to get Michael Hawkins ready for 2026.
Right.
Or the guy that can compete with Michael Hawkins for 2025 and maybe raise his game so that he's pushing for the starting quarterback job in 2025. We'll see. I don't know. It's going to be fascinating to see how this all plays out. We're going to see a lot of portal activity, both on the offensive and I think we'll see some on the defensive, but I think less so on the defensive side of the ball than what we'll see on the offense, because those guys, they balled out this year, and we're going to need them to ball out one more time as Oklahoma is going to head to the bowl game. We'll discuss that coming up next here on Locked On Sooners.